We are live on a Saturday morning. Good morning, Jodi.
Good morning. Good to
Yeah,
be here.
yes, it is always good to be here with some girlfriends. And this is Girlfriend Chats. We're going to be talking a little bit about just kind of a little bit about you, what you kind of do, who you help, all that kind of good stuff, because it's really important to know who we are tapping into to move forward in life and business. And so I have had the pleasure of not just having you here in our fave community, but also tapped into your knowledge and your wisdom. And I call all my fave girlfriends, all my wise friends, because you help me through so many things. Jodi, I think one of the things before we get started, kind of talking a little bit more about you, one of the things that's really difficult being a woman entrepreneur is life distractions or life crises or just life things that pop up that distract us from what we're doing.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
you've had a few in the last year, and you know what? We deal with it. Ladies, we are so capable. But sometimes, you know what? Sometimes we need a girlfriend to help us through it. So, Jodi, you have helped me through some really tough things. And I just want to give the ladies a little peek into what that looks like. So, first of all, just kind of introduce yourself and tell the ladies kind of what you do, that big picture.
Yes. I became a life coach in 2019. And after listening to a podcast, it made such a difference for me, the tool that was shared, and it's with the life coach school. And so I became certified, and I wanted, based on my experiences with my own family, I have 4 kids with different challenges with mental health things and different types of diagnoses, and we had been through so much as a family. And once I found this coaching tool, it made such a difference for me, and it was life-changing, literally. And I just felt like when I had been going through those really, really difficult things with my family, I felt like I wanted to help other moms and families that were also going through mental health things, because as we all know, it's not talked about openly, and women are in isolation. Moms, there's so many things that are contributing, the stigmas around mental health, but also all of the conditioning we've had as women, and just it's so much. And so these tools that I learned through coaching helped me, and I just felt like I have to share these with other women and other
Yes.
families and make a difference. And so that's what I've been doing the last, going on 4 years now. So
Yes. And so, oh my gosh, so many things to unpack there, because yes, whether it's mental health or, just dealing with those teenage years or young
yes,
adults, I think the first thing that we always think we're supposed to be able to handle it on our own. And then
yes,
when we finally realize, you know what? I don't know how to handle this. I've never been through this.
yeah,
And then you go, where do I go? Who do I talk to? How do I get through it? And one of the things and you talked about this tool, and we're going to talk about it, because I have found it's not just a tool that you have in your back pocket. It's a lot more than that, because you help people really kind of unpack even to get to the tool. And
right.
so, it's just so beautiful. So, yeah. So, ladies, if you have ever had, I would just love to see a raise of hands out there in virtual land. How many people have gone through something that's difficult and you didn't know how to really get through it? And like you said, Jodi, mental health is not talked about.
Yeah.
It's still swept under the rug.
Yeah, there's just shame around it. We just haven't gotten to a point where we view mental health as physical health. If people are struggling with a diagnosis of, heaven forbid, cancer or something, even diabetes or anything like that, it's just much more talked about. It's more accepted for some reason. And mental health illness, anything that has to do with the brain and emotional functioning, is somehow associated with a character flaw or something wrong with you. And we have to shift that narrative.
Yes.
It's really, it keeps people from getting help, and
Yeah.
it also helps, it has people taking on responsibility or blame where there's no place for that. It shouldn't be that way. So
Oh, Thank
Yeah.
you for being in this space. And so I want the girls to understand too a little bit of your background, because you have had a lot of not just practical experience, but also in your profession.
Yes. Yeah. I am a teacher by trade, I guess. My career path has been in teaching. So I started out, way back in the 90s, early 90s, when I had my young kids and everything. And I was a kindergarten teacher. And I've been in education all this time. I ended up going into school leadership. And I'm now very excited about this, but I am now going back into the classroom this coming year. So, over those years of having kids with special challenges and being actually in the classroom as well, I also got a lot of training in equity and diversity and a lot of the like social issues in the world. I feel like I had a wonderful opportunity as an educator to get really advanced training in many of those topics that a lot of people don't always have access to. And it's really helped in my perspective about disabilities, about mental health, about the way the brain works, the way that learning happens. There's a lot in there that just over the accumulation of being in that world for decades now. I'm going into 24 years. So that's also helped me in my coaching, really, to
Yeah.
have some of that other background.
Yeah, and you have a real focus on that mental health, that behavioral science, and so that's where you are unique to other life coaches and people who are out there. So, ladies, I know to even understand when the nuances of depression or anxiety or how that plays out, all those things, and then how does that affect us as a person walking beside somebody who's having those issues. So oh my gosh, so if you ever have any questions, always feel free to reach out to Jodi. But yeah, so let's just real quickly, we're going to talk about kind of that process that you take people through, because I think that's important to understand, that there is a process, that there is a working tool, and it has helped me. And I'm going to give an example of one of my models, that it might be kind of a little bit universal. You can kind of input your own words, but one of the things that I have experienced with you is the insight. I have worked with a lot of coaches, and they feel a certain need along the path of our journey, if you will. And your space where you come in is a lot of times when someone is really in crisis. It's like, I don't know what to do. This event and this circumstance has blown up. I need help. And a lot of times you feel like you're sinking. And so take us through that process, and but start off with kind of where a woman typically, because she can come in at a different place, depending on the situation, but where is she coming from, and what's that transformation? Where does she go to in
Yes.
coaching with you?
Yes. Yeah, most of the clients that come to me are in a crisis, and a crisis is defined by ourselves. It's the way that we're thinking about something. And just like you described it as, I don't know what to do. There's too much. It's just overwhelming. And a lot of times it's mental health related, but I've worked with moms and women that identify as caretakers and not necessarily moms. And they're just at a place of, it's almost like I almost feel like it's a lifeline. They need someone to toss them something to be like, okay, I can feel grounded again. I can breathe. It's really at a very basic level of that crisis point. And so that's where they usually come to me. And what I feel like is most important initially is just for me to be a listener and to really hear the experience that the person is having, because that's how we start when we go through a coaching transformation. We have to start and be really well aware of where we are. We have to like face reality in that sense. And so I have to hear my client. And then from there, what I like to do is ask the questions that help them identify what they're making the situation mean about themselves. Because that's the piece where it's like it's not just, I can give you a strategy about, okay, let's map out this next week and we're going to first call for, setting up supports, right? And calling. I can give strategies that are very tactical, but and we all need that sometimes. Sometimes we just need someone to say, okay, step one, we can do this. But if we don't go to that place of what we're making it about ourselves and really go to that heart of the matter, that's where when we feel like we're drowning or we feel like we don't know what to do, it's because we haven't gotten back to, what am I really making this mean about me? And so
Yes.
that's the place that then that's where we do the work. And it really does take using the tool and learning the tool and making some, having a safe space to talk about these things, and then being able to have support while you use those thinking tools, and then be able to have support to use them on your own. And that's a process that takes, for most clients, around 8 weeks is the kind of the sweet spot.
Yes. And so I'm laughing because as you're talking about it, because I have worked with you, so I kind of think of some of those pieces as you're listening and then you're asking questions back. It's almost like you've heard me and you're a translator, and now you're translating it back to me because maybe I was speaking a foreign language and wasn't understanding myself, what I was trying to convey. And so that's what I kind of, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's what I was trying to say. But it comes back to you, and then you take it and then you can work with it. And the insight that you have, and it's because of your experience, your knowledge, that you are able to insightfully do that. And oh my gosh, it's just, I'm totally, every time I work with you, I'm so amazed. I'm like, because I feel like I have taken this step forward that I couldn't take on my own.
Yes.
Because I was just kind of lost in la la land here, or whatever, or in that, or the emotion, or the swirling thoughts, or I don't know what to do kind of place. So yes, I love that. So let's talk a little bit about that tool, because that's it's a little, when we say there's a tool, it's hard sometimes to understand exactly what that means. So give us a brief kind of overview, and then I'm going to give an example of one of mine.
Yes. I cannot take credit for this tool, but in my training, it's called the model, and it's really a thinking model. And I almost think of it as a formula for life, literally, for me. It's like you can plug in your thoughts and your emotions, and I'll just go through it very briefly. But you can start anywhere, and then it's just like a math equation. Wherever you start, you can fill in the rest. So you start with, there are circumstances in life that we don't have control over. And this is that face reality part. It's like, sometimes we just need to say, this is what I'm going through factually. My son is going to be hospitalized for a mental health condition. That's the fact. And this is the part we don't have control over. And so that's the first line in the model. And then the second line in the model is our thought about that circumstance. And this is what we talk about as, this is where we have our power. This is where we can notice how we are thinking about it. And so then we can write down the prominent thought that we have about that situation. And that is going to, because all thoughts evoke emotion, then that thought will give us an emotion, or our feeling line. And so the third line in the model is our feeling, or our emotion. And our emotions drive all of our actions in life. And so when you have any feeling at all, it prompts you to take action for that feeling. If it's positive, you want to repeat. If it's a negative feeling, we often want to avoid. And that's a natural part of being human. So we have our actions that are driven from that feeling. And then all of that in accumulation creates a result for us in our life. And it's just a beautiful self-awareness exercise that we can take for any problem, any situation that we're in. And it just illuminates in a really clear, simple way why we are feeling the way we're feeling, or why we are in a situation. And if, like you described, that overwhelm, that feeling of not knowing what to do, becomes really clear to us when we go through that exercise. So
yes, and the other thing that too, that when we have been working on these models, there's an unintentional, it's like where you're at,
yes.
to the intentional of what you would really desire. And that sometimes when you put that unintentional, you actually almost start laughing. It's like, oh yeah. And I think one of the very things that I go back to over and over and over again, what are the facts?
Yes.
Check the facts, because sometimes we're not in the facts. We're swirling around in our thoughts or in that emotion, or we can get lost in those spaces,
Yes.
or it overtakes us. And so just to do that. So here's one of mine, and you could insert your own words or whatever, but this was for me, and it was around challenging times. And I have some others that I might put in the comments too about being a woman entrepreneur and just getting over some of those pieces of hustle, am I enough, all that kind of good stuff. So this one is the circumstances, challenging times. The thought is, I can handle this. I'm going to be okay. The feeling is I wanted to feel poised to take that next steps. That word I love that word. And then the action is listen to my inner wisdom, explore the options, and research, learn, drop the expectations from others, ask questions, provide resources, care for myself, make decisions from a CEO mindset, and say yes to what I want and no to what I don't want. And the result, experience ease and flow. I call it light and breezy, girlfriends. That I can handle it, and that I am okay, and that it's okay to be caring.
Yes.
And
so
it
much
took us
in
a
there.
while to get there.
Yeah, no, no, that's so true. That's so true. But that's such a good example of an intentional model, because that intentional model is where you think that thought, and when you get a belief, it's because you've repeated that thought over and over again until it becomes a belief. And so if you do have that in that line, and then that's the feeling of feeling poised, that is how you show up in your business and in, those circumstances.
Yeah. So there's so many great ones, that I could share all day, because it's just I find this so fascinating. And I love how you said too, that thought, keep thinking that thought and change your belief. Because a lot of times I thought, oh, I've got to believe something different. It's like, but it wasn't part of my thought process. That's not, that it take, and to allow ourselves time to be and to walk through that transition. It does not happen overnight. I am still working on so many things, and especially that communication is one of mine that I feel I have a lot of area of growth to be had. And so, Jodi, I just absolutely love the work that you're doing. So how can the ladies, what's the best way for them to, if they just have a question about how this works, what's the best thing to do?
Yes. I can be reached at, I'm most active on Instagram. And so Jodi Schilling Coaching is my handle there. And I put some posts out there that are helpful as well. And so they can message me through Instagram. And I also if through the Fave app, definitely, there's a way to contact me, just clicking my name there.
Yes.
And getting that. So that's, very easy. But yes, I am just always happy to answer questions. And I have a policy about working with people so that it's not ever a sales call, but it's just always a free session of, let's just explore what's going on. And I really want anybody who wants to go further, I always want that to be their choice. So I just want to put that out there right away, that I'm not one that is like trying to get someone to then, start working. I really do love those conversations where I can teach this tool and provide that support, because really, truly, I work in the space of crisis. I do. And so I feel like that is what I'm called to do, is to be that support and be that listener. And I want to do that first. So
Oh,
please don't
I'm getting
hesitate.
like chills because Jodi, the work that you do, I just want to shout it from the mountaintops because we all go through things and it might be a little mini crisis, it might be a big crisis. And
Yeah.
just knowing that there's somebody out there so you don't feel like you're sinking, that you don't feel like you're falling apart. And you might not have the capacity. And that's the
Yeah.
only way sometimes that when you're in a crisis, what it feels like, and other people, your friends, it's not their place to support you through that. You really do need a trained professional to help you walk through some of these things. And I just am so thankful that you do the work that you do and that I have been able to tap into that myself as well. And so, yeah, so you are also here. We're just going to finish up here quickly with you will have been a part of our fave community for some time. What is something that you have really enjoyed or has been surprised at when you came, or just a quick word about your time here at fave?
Yes. Yeah. I have to share that my first experience was one of fear too. And I think that a lot of us go through this of joining a new community and feeling like that, that person standing at the junior high dance on the sideline of like, will I be asked in? Will I be, you know what I mean? I felt that way. I just, that is not, but my nature is not to be really an extrovert. And so I think that the chats that we've had where we have those, and I haven't been able to always participate because of my daytime schedule, but every time that I've been a part of a chat where there's some celebration and some sharing, and the group is intimate and small enough to talk about and be honest about what your struggles are in your business, and just having that connection has been so good and so helpful for me. But the other part is just, I think the community of the celebration part too, when we have the get-togethers where we just are connecting to connect and just have like being in the same place with someone going through the same thing. It's such a parallel to what I do, but in the business sense. And so I love it. I think that it's an very lonely journey to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot, we have to overcome a lot of fears as we put ourselves out there in the world. And so having that's such a wonderful resource to have the community and the support and the girlfriends. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing because we want other women to know what it's like here and
Yeah.
it's really hard to explain because we are not a networking group. We really are a society of women journeying together, like you said, and doing that celebration and just knowing that other women are going, other women are working and having their businesses or you've got multiple things or just you're focused on that one, but it is a safe space for women to come and be celebrated. So thank you, Jodi. Thanks for coming and chatting with us today. I appreciate you being here and sharing all your gifts with us here at Fave.
Thank you for having me. So
Right.
good.